Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Wednesday, 14th May 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. Israeli military operations continue in Gaza, focusing on what they claim are Hamas command and control centers, including those beneath hospitals in Khan Yunis. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists the offensive will continue with full force until Hamas is defeated, stating there is no way Israel will halt the war. Raids have been conducted on Nessa Hospital, with the military claiming significant Hamas terrorists were operating within. Airstrikes have also targeted the European hospital in Khan Yunis in a reported attempt to kill top Hamas leader Mohammed Sinwar, resulting in significant casualties, with reports of over 60 deaths, including at least 22 children, in areas near the hospital. Other attacks have reportedly killed 48 people, including 22 children, and at least 50 people in northern Gaza, including the Jabalia refugee camp. Hamas claims that a journalist was killed during a raid on a Gaza hospital in Khan Yunis. In response to the ongoing conflict, Israel intercepted a missile launched from Yemen. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is rapidly deteriorating, with warnings of impending famine. The UN humanitarian chief has criticized Israel for deliberately blocking aid to Gaza, noting that World Food Programme, WFP, warehouses are empty. The WFP has reduced meal provisions from 1 million people at the end of April to only 250,000 meals daily. No humanitarian aid has been delivered to Gaza since March 2, and a global hunger monitor warns of starvation for 500,000 people. Internal analyses by Israeli officers acknowledge that Gaza is on the brink of starvation due to severely limited food supplies since aid deliveries were blocked in March. The UN humanitarian chief has also criticized Israel's proposed Gaza aid plan, which is backed by the US ceasefire. Talks are reportedly ongoing amidst the attacks. In the realm of international relations, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held an online meeting with US President Donald Trump, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. These meetings occurred amidst shifts in US foreign policy, with President Trump prioritizing business deals with Saudi Arabia over the Israeli normalization efforts previously emphasized by the Biden administration. The missile launch from Yemen coincided with Trump's visit to the Gulf region. Japan is grappling with economic headwinds in its automotive sector, highlighted by potential U.S. tariffs that could cost automakers $1 trillion. Nissan has already suspended its profit forecast and announced plans to cut 20,000 jobs and close 7 plants after a significant quarterly loss. Concurrently, rice prices are on the rise, fueled by tourism, hoarding, distribution problems, and persistent agricultural policies, prompting AEON to introduce Coroyaca California rice as a more affordable option starting June 6th. Turning to international affairs, Japan is facing pressure from the U.S. to invest in the $44 a Laz pipeline project, although its profitability is being questioned. Japan is providing assistance to Ukraine by sending heavy machinery for mine clearance, deploying AI technology to detect hazards. In contrast, a Japanese citizen in his 50s received a 12-year prison sentence in Shanghai for espionage. Domestically, Japan is adapting its family registration system to acknowledge Taiwan as a place of origin, a move appreciated by Taiwanese descendants. Concerns are mounting over youth mental health, where Japan lags despite excelling in physical health, and suicide rates remain high among wealthy nations. Isolation among youths is a growing problem, leading to fears of copycat knife attacks. The stalking and subsequent death of a 20-year-old woman by her ex-boyfriend has intensified calls for stricter anti-stalking laws. In aviation safety, an air self-defense force training aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff, and a U.S. military helicopter in Okinawa dropped a bag containing an inflammable signal flame tube. Furthermore, a former kindergarten employee was arrested for allegedly filming nude videos of boys at a lodging facility. The Norwegian Nobel Institute is scheduled to hold an event in Japan in July to promote nuclear disarmament. Misinformation is also a challenge, with 25.5% of individuals exposed to false information, admitting to spreading it within their families or on social media platforms. Finally, heat stress is increasingly affecting pregnant women, with the number of harmfully hot days nearly doubling in the last 5 years, raising concerns about adverse birth outcomes. India strongly denied U.S. President Donald Trump's assertions of brokering a ceasefire with Pakistan in return for trade benefits, stating that key allies, including Quad members, were kept informed by New Delhi. The Indian National Congress questioned whether Prime Minister Modi and the External Affairs Minister compromised India's security interests. Further, India voiced its concern about the ban on Sheikh Hasina's Awami League in Bangladesh, affirming its support for free and inclusive elections. In Kashmir, Indian forces engaged in a gun battle, killing 3 suspected militants, marking the first such incident since a tourist attack threatened to escalate tensions between India and Pakistan. The recent India and Pakistan conflict, now halted after 4 days of fighting, is being analyzed for its implications. The massacre of 26 civilians, predominantly Hindus, in Pahalgam, in India-administered Kashmir, highlighted the risk of heightened religious tensions. Experts believe this Islamist attack aimed to provoke Hindu-Muslim unrest within India. Despite the ceasefire, damage to homes has been reported in the Indian-controlled Jammu region. The United States President Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed, for the 5th time since Saturday, May 10, 2025, that the U.S. mediated a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Turning to China, amid the ongoing tensions between India and Pakistan, a Chinese official engaged with an Indian OI to discuss bilateral relations and shared concerns. United Kingdom, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, is scrutinizing Aviva's £3.70 billion acquisition of Direct Line. The CMA will assess the potential impact on competition within the insurance market over a period of up to 40 working days. A UCL study revealed the detrimental effects of early air pollution exposure on adolescent health. The study highlighted inequalities, with ethnic minority groups facing disproportionately higher risks from pollutants like PM2.5, PM10, and NOx2. After 38 years of imprisonment, Peter Sullivan, the UK's longest-serving victim of a wrongful conviction, was exonerated and released due to DNA evidence. A UK court reversed his murder conviction. Ukraine-Russia diplomatic efforts are intensifying to find a resolution for the conflict in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy expressed his readiness to participate in peace talks in Turkey this week, but only if Russian President Vladimir Putin also attends. Zelenskyy aims for direct discussions with Putin in Istanbul. Zelenskyy's demand for Putin's presence is considered a test of Russia's genuine desire for a peaceful settlement. President Zelenskyy has also requested President Trump to attend the peace talks, suggesting it would exert pressure on Vladimir Putin to engage directly. The Kremlin has not yet confirmed Putin's attendance at the proposed talks. Saudi Arabia is facing scrutiny as a construction surge, driven partly by the 2034 Men's World Cup, increases demand for cheap migrant labor. This boom has sparked warnings from human rights groups about potentially deadly conditions for thousands of workers. The kingdom's ties with the United States have deepened, marked by a $142 billion arms package. This agreement is considered the largest defense cooperation deal in U.S. history. Former President Donald Trump, during a visit to Riyadh, met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. emphasizing deal-making and referencing $600 billion in Saudi deals at the U.S. Saudi Investment Forum. The actual project costs were later clarified to be less than half the quoted amount. Trump's relationship with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was noticeably more amicable than that of his predecessor. Reports have also emerged detailing serious risks to construction workers for the World Cup, citing gruesome yet avoidable accidents, despite assertions that work-related deaths have been reduced. The United States is currently undergoing notable transformations in both its foreign relations and internal strategies. Sony's newly appointed CEO, Hiroki Totoki, is steering the entertainment conglomerate to adapt to the evolving landscape influenced by U.S. tariffs. Pandora, the Danish jewelry firm, is responding to the U.S. trade dynamics by adjusting its pricing strategies and redirecting shipments from Thailand to minimize potential tariff-related impact. China has seen some relief as the U.S. has lowered tariffs on small parcels from the country, reducing ad valorem duties from 120% to 54% and halting a planned increase in fixed charges per pack. South Africa has seen some of its Afrikaner population seek asylum in the U.S., citing persecution or fear thereof, and they have been received by U.S. authorities. Meanwhile, other nations are actively seeking to recruit researchers and scientists who reportedly feel unwelcome under the Trump administration, framing it as a unique chance to acquire talent, as the U.S. was previously an attractive destination for skilled individuals. Ethical questions surround Qatar's offer of a $400 million Boeing 747 to former President Donald Trump. Congressional Republicans expressed concern about potential security risks. These risks include possible surveillance or the aircraft being bugged. Adam Schiff is requesting a Department of Defense Inspector General investigation. The investigation would focus on the department's role in accepting the jet. Qatar had previously been labeled a funder of terrorism by Trump. The country has since invested heavily in improving its global image. Trump previously visited Qatar with Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar. President Trump is scheduled to visit the Gulf states, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. He is also scheduled to meet with Syria's new president. For the first time, Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, will oversee a World Cup ceremony. The Emir of Qatar will transfer hosting responsibilities to the United States. The United States is co-hosting the 2026 tournament. Amidst escalating regional tensions, Pakistan declared an Indian diplomat persona non grata, demanding their exit within 24 hours. The Indian chargé d'affaires was summoned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to receive the formal notification. Discrepancies continue regarding Pakistan's claim of downing 5 Indian fighter jets. Pakistan reported more than 50 fatalities during the preceding week's confrontations with India, although a ceasefire is presently in effect. China, Pakistan's main arms provider, saw its fighter jets and missiles play a crucial role in the military exchanges. The CMP also spotlighted Pakistan's ABC system aimed against India. Adding his voice to the discourse, Xi Jinping urged nations to unite during these turbulent times. Iran is actively pursuing diplomatic avenues to revive the 2015 nuclear deal, engaging in high-level talks with the United States. As part of these negotiations, Iran has proposed a collaborative nuclear enrichment project involving Arab nations and American investment. Showing a willingness to compromise, Iran has also indicated a potential acceptance of temporary restrictions on uranium enrichment. Simultaneously, separate discussions are planned in Istanbul between Iran and European signatories of the original 2000 agreement. Malawi is grappling with a trade disruption as fruit sellers face a shortage of produce, specifically bananas, impacting their livelihoods and incomes. Traders are actively seeking the return of their goods, highlighting the economic impact of the dispute with Tanzania. Turning to the United States, the Trump administration's focus on prioritizing white South African refugees drew criticism, with some alleging hypocrisy. This decision raised concerns about the financial burden and responsibility for resettlement costs within the U.S. The policy was compared unfavorably to the administration's stance on excluding other groups, notably Afghans who had aided U.S. military operations. Fiji is currently observing the 146th anniversary of the arrival of its first indentured laborers from British India. A former president of the Textile Clothing and Footwear Council of Fiji has voiced criticism against a union official's remarks about garment workers, deeming them obsolete and self-serving. The Fijian Drua rugby team is focused on securing a victory in their next game against the Western Force, with a strong motivation to satisfy their dedicated fan base. Adding another layer to Fiji's diaspora, Fijian Indians residing in New Zealand are actively pursuing Pacifica classification. Malaysia is grappling with a surge in elephant deaths from traffic accidents, prompting public outcry and calls for stronger government action to protect the endangered species. Compounding matters, experts are pushing Prime Minister Anwar to pursue reparations from Russia for the M17 tragedy, citing Malaysia's moral obligation to seek justice for the victims, even if it complicates diplomatic relations. Turning to Australia, the government is set to introduce new legislation targeting misinformation and disinformation online. The laws will grant the Australian Communications and Media Authority, ACMA, greater powers to demand platforms, remove harmful content, and address systemic issues that enable its spread. Across the Tasman Sea, New Zealand's Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, is under fire for claiming ignorance about a controversial social media post by his wife, Amanda Luxon, that appeared to endorse a specific fashion brand. Critics argue that this undermines his commitment to transparency and ethical conduct. Meanwhile, in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is facing scrutiny over its handling of foreign interference allegations. Opposition parties are demanding a public inquiry into claims that China meddled in Canadian elections, potentially swaying outcomes. Shifting focus to the United States, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case concerning access to the abortion pill, mifepristone. This decision sets the stage for a high-stakes legal battle that could significantly restrict abortion access nationwide. Greece was shaken by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake south of the island of Kassos, prompting a tsunami warning for coastal areas. The United States Geological Survey reported the quake. Monks reside at the Simonos Petra Monastery on Mount Athos, a peninsula in northern Greece with over 1,000 years of Christian Orthodox monastic history. Myanmar continues to grapple with the aftermath of the military coup, as Aung San Suu Kyi, the nation's former leader, remains in custody. Meanwhile, in Argentina, the judiciary has issued an international arrest warrant related to an unspecified case. Adding to the nation's historical complexities, a remarkable discovery occurred within the Argentina Supreme Court's archives. Staff uncovered boxes, brimming with thousands of documents dating back to the Nazi era, potentially shedding light on previously unknown aspects of Nazi operations and presence in Argentina during the early to mid-20th century. The implications of this find are still being assessed. Brazil's President Lula has called on Russia's President Putin to pursue peace talks in Istanbul regarding the conflict in Ukraine, reinforcing the joint Brazil-China position that direct dialogue is essential. Meanwhile, in sports news from Brazil, iconic striker Mata, aged 39, is set to play for the national team again in 2 friendlies against Japan, a comeback announced by the Brazilian Football Confederation, CBF, after a 9-month break. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing scrutiny over alleged foreign interference in recent elections. Opposition parties are demanding a public inquiry into claims that China attempted to influence the 2019 and 2021 federal elections. These allegations include illicit funding to candidates and disinformation campaigns targeting specific politicians. Meanwhile, in France, protests and strikes continue against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform. The controversial legislation raises the retirement age from 62 to 64. Despite widespread opposition, the government pushed the bill through Parliament without a vote, triggering further public anger and unrest. In the United States, economic indicators are mixed, with concerns about a potential recession. The Federal Reserve is closely monitoring inflation and considering further interest rate hikes. Congress is also debating the debt ceiling, with Republicans and Democrats at odds over spending cuts. Failure to reach an agreement could lead to a default on US debt obligations. Singaporean health authorities are closely monitoring a rise in COVID-19 cases within the country. This increase is primarily attributed to waning population immunity. Health officials anticipate periodic waves of COVID-19 infections throughout the year, a pattern consistent with other endemic respiratory diseases. Hungary's government is considering legislation that could allow it to monitor and penalize organizations deemed threats to national sovereignty. Critics fear this law could target dissenting voices, including media and NGOs. This has raised significant concerns about potential restrictions on freedom of expression and association. Indonesia is re-evaluating its $8.10 billion deal to purchase 42 Rafale fighter jets from France. This reassessment is due to concerns arising from the reported performance of the Rafale jets during a recent aerial conflict between India and Pakistan. Pakistan's specific claims about the Rafale's effectiveness are factoring into Indonesia's ongoing defense strategy review. Mexico City offers an alternative to expensive culinary programs through DIY cooking classes. Columnist explored this option by sampling day classes at Casa Jacaranda Cooking School. These classes provided focused lessons on mole sauce and tacos al pastor. They also gave insights into local Mexican culture. Albania's parliamentary elections show a likely win for the Socialist Party, signaling support for EU membership efforts and Prime Minister Edi Rama's potential fourth term. New Zealand is currently seeing a record number of citizens leaving the country, leading to a decline in overall immigration. Australia is the primary destination for these citizens, drawn by better employment opportunities. Chinese leader WHAM Xi Jinping has been advocating for expanded trade relations beyond commodity purchases amidst ongoing tariffs imposed by the United States. Colombia has formally joined China's Belt and Road Initiative after a summit in Beijing, further solidifying China's presence in Latin America. Following a Beijing summit, Colombia has officially joined China's Belt and Road Initiative, becoming the latest Latin American nation to participate. The Czech Republic's arms production industry is booming. This has prompted discussions about whether it could surpass the automotive industry as the country's primary economic driver. In the Dominican Republic, journalists and citizens marched in the capital city to protest a proposed bill regulating freedom of expression, with critics claiming it could lead to government censorship. French President Emmanuel Macron has indicated he is open to the idea of deploying French nuclear weapons within Europe, clarifying that any shared deterrence arrangement would not compromise France's independent defense. Iraqi judicial authorities have reported the release of over 19,000 prisoners this year. This is due to a new amnesty law designed to address prison overcrowding. The law also covers some individuals convicted of terrorism offenses. An Amnesty International report has documented the experiences of over 70 Kenyan women. These women have reported instances of abuse and exploitation while working as domestic workers in Saudi Arabia. Funerals were held in central Myanmar for approximately 24 students and teachers. These victims were allegedly killed in an airstrike on a school, reportedly conducted by a military jet fighter. Supporting Palestine's admission to the UN could be Trump's moment to deliver peace to the Middle East, potentially fostering regional stability, economic growth, and a lasting legacy. A police commander in Papua New Guinea's National Capital District has voiced concerns about the public's decreasing respect for law enforcement, calling it a sad day for the nation. The upcoming Philippine midterm election could see Marcos weakened by youth voters, potentially impacting his influence in Congress, efforts to impeach his deputy, and the 2028 presidential race. United States President Trump's tariffs were mentioned as Chilean President Gabriel Boric attended a summit with other Latin American leaders and the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, who has suggested expanding trade ties beyond buying commodities. Vietnam's Prime Minister Famine has instructed the country's anti-counterfeit task force to develop new strategies. These strategies are meant to combat fake goods, trade frauds, and smuggling activities within the country. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.